Hello, welcome back to WTSF, where I answer questions from Reddit/Street Fighter with in-game examples. I find the common themes for the week on Reddit, you vote for which ones you'd like to see more on, and then I'll make a video answering questions based on that theme. This week what you'd like to see most is character archetypes in Street Fighter V. First post from Erasure, questions about the Chun-Li Menat matchup. Okay, so I've heard this is Chun's worst matchup and it sure feels like it. I can never seem to get in and she's so slippery. It feels like everything about her is designed to keep me out. There's the stand and heavy punch, which makes it feel like it's hard to just walk up. There's the Soul Sphere that I'm not quite sure what to do against in neutral. Is there anything that can be done to counter the V reversal that gets her out of the corner? I'm assuming that the Cammy kick is safe if spaced correctly, but is it possible to stuff it either air to air or on the ground? Try to play it patient like I do against Guile, which is to inch up and push her back into the corner. It feels much harder here, so I'm thinking that maybe that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So this first archetype that we're talking about, of course, is zoners. So there are a bunch of different types of zoners in the game. They all keep you out in different ways. Some of them are going to use projectiles, some have stretchy limbs, some of them might hit you with weapons. And then there's Menat, who can hit you with an orb, or in this case, a bunch of them and a book. And as you pointed out, that can be quite a difficult matchup for Chun-Li. Because she hasn't got a full screen projectile, if she is being zoned out, there's not a lot that she can do at this range. In a lot of the matchups where you're being zoned out by things like a weapon, Chun-Li can use things like back heavy punch, she can navigate under the projectile. Menat has got a lot of invincibility at those ranges, and there's not a lot you can do there. Now, when dealing with any zoner, what they're trying to do is keep you out, and of course that means that you become more predictable because you're going to get frustrated and you're going to try to get in. But typically this does require a lot of effort for the zoner as well. They normally have to be unpredictable, they have to be quite meticulous, they have to be quite accurate with what they're choosing to do and when they're choosing to do it. And also having a character that's able to play well at range tends to mean that they're not able to play well at close range. Although bear in mind they may have some panic options that allow them to reset to neutral. On top of that, a lot of their Oki and pressure isn't that great or depends on a bit of fakeness to get by. As you point out, that big stand and heavy punch is quite difficult to deal with. And Menat can use it with relative impunity at any range. At very close ranges it can be punished. Also it has quite a long animation, so you can dash behind it. Also if they do become predictable with it and they just throw it out every time you stand at that range, it will eat a jump in for it. Soul Sphere puts you at a lot of risk. If it's out there and you're behind it, there's not a lot that you can do to get past it without getting hit. If you have meter, you can throw fireballs through it. If you can get them away from the orb, put a lot of pressure on them to stop them from being able to recall it. But other than that, it's going to just require a lot of patience. And that Cammy kick, like most dive kicks, they want to hit you quite low down. For this reason you want to block it standing. This starts your recovery animation sooner. And although there is the temptation to anti-air it, because she can change trajectory in the air, you have to pick your range, and at best you're probably going to get a trade. A more consistent trade is back heavy punch, but really you do have to know your range. And lastly, that V reversal in the corner. If you're able to read it, there's a bunch of things you can do, including the forward heavy kick. If you're walking backwards already, you're in throw range. Again, some little micro steps back, you can do things like your crouch medium kick. And it takes a bit of practice, but on reaction you can also use things like legs. Also as Chun-Li, there are ranges where Menat might feel safe in most matchups, where you can sneak in with nice long range, stand heavy punches, you crouch medium punches, some more gimmicky things like dashing behind fireballs. General rules against zoners as any character though is be patient, wait for them to make mistakes. Be very conscious of when you're holding the life lead. If you are, there is no need to get frustrated and go in. Next question from Kez Karma, how to play grapplers. Playing Alex, I'm having trouble actually getting in close enough to land his command grab. People seem to be able to poke me out of it as soon as I get near to the range to land my command grab. Please help this noob out with some advice. Now of course grapplers are the biggest, brainedest, most intelligent of the archetypes. I might be biased on that one. The general rules of grapplers is that you've got your own set of rock, paper, scissors going on. You want to get them blocking. You then want to get them afraid of command throws because they've been blocking. And then when they're afraid of command throws, you want to get them afraid of counter hits for being afraid of command throws. When you hear grapplers talking about conditioning, those are the main things they're trying to do, is make the opponent feel like they either have to block or get out of the way. Now the most obvious examples that you can show off with a character like Alex, or if he does his lariat here and it's blocked, you see that they are -3, which means it's still your turn. If they're -3, you can do anything up to a 6-frame medium attack, which will out-prioritize their 3-frame jab. In Alex's case, that's a standing medium punch, so they feel like they have to block. But another thing that you have that is 6 frames is your command throw. Now they have to pick, are they going to do the command throw or are they going to do the medium punch? And they feel like they have to guess, and they have a 50-50 chance of guessing right. This isn't always true, of course. And just because they're blocking, you can take even more advantage. So one thing you'll see that's quite common with Alex's is when they block that lariat, you throw out another lariat. Now the lariat has an 11 frame startup, so way too slow to throw out again when they're blocking that first lariat. But because they're afraid of pushing a button and getting counter hit, you can throw that as many times as you want. And you'll see that quite often with Alex's. They will quite comfortably just use that button all day. It's all because the Zangief doesn't want to get chopped. Of course, if they are blocking, that also means you can now comfortably go up and command throw. And that's the essence of being a grappler really, is making them block and really exploiting that position that you put them in. If they see you abusing that privilege, they might start pressing a button, at which point you start breaking out the crush counters, and they're in a whole new guessing game. Tend to not have massive combos as a result. Opponent's going to do a lot to try and keep you out. Once you're in, apply the pressure, try and create some of those plus frame scenarios. Next question from Ice-T45, tips for playing Cammy. I recently got Street Fighter 5 only to find out my Street Fighter 2 main Fei Long isn't in the game. Luckily my other character Cammy is here. Does anyone have tips or advice for playing her in this meta? One of the reasons I've included this question is that it mentions Fei Long, who is a Rekka style character, and there aren't many of them in Street Fighter 5. And that just goes to show that there are a lot of different archetypes, and not all of them are covered here. With characters like Cammy, however, you might hear terms like set play heavy and mix up heavy. I like to think of her as a counter hitter. She has a lot of block strings that will lead to counter hits. So if you're not blocking when you should be blocking, you'll likely lose a lot of screen advantage and take a bit of damage as well. Much like the grappler, this plays into the idea that she can hit you with block strings and then break those block strings and start throwing you around as well. And this means that if you start worrying about getting thrown and you start teching mid-screen, out come those counter hits and you're going to end up in the corner very, very quickly. Another way that she counter hits well is with her whiff punishes. So just standing in effective ranges and then really hurting them for not getting their spacing correct is another great way that Cammy can command the screen. Again, very similar to a grappler in that sense. Once you start getting them to behave a certain way, abuse that situation. First step with Cammy really is going to be learning some of those great block strings and how to hit confirm off. Next question by Toadflax1. Somewhat new player, kinda into Sagat but unsure his role and best way to play him. I decided to pick up Street Fighter 5 and after getting the idea of the basics, I've been trying out all different characters and none really speak to me except for Sagat. My main problem with him is he feels really clunky but not in a good way. I've been doing fine online with him but I'm wondering if he's really worth playing. If so, how would you suggest I go about it? And if not, who else would you recommend? Bit controversial this one, but Sagat roughly fits into the Shotos character archetype. It's one of the more orthodox styles of Street Fighter. And as I'll show you with Akuma here, they tend to have a fireball, a dragon punch, and an advancing kick special attack. At range, a big part of their game plan is going to be throwing a variety of fireballs at different speeds, sometimes at different levels. And that's mainly to encourage the opponent to jump, at which point you smack them out the air with the Dragon Punch. One of the best ways that Sagat does this is actually with what's called a Kara-cancelled Dragon Punch, where you cancel his forward medium kick into a Dragon Punch. So as you can see, we're standing at the edge of this stone tablet on the ground, and our Dragon Punch here will miss. However, if we cancel that kick into it, you can see it actually does reach. Throw fireballs at ranges that encourage jumps, but even when they feel that they're in a safe range, you can exploit that with a Dragon Punch quite often. Rather than a traditional Shoto tornado kick, his advancing kick is a tiger knee. It loses some of the nice advantages that the tornado kicks have. The knee's versatile in its own way, and it can carry characters into the corner and other things. In terms of Shoto characters, Akuma is still arguably the best one, and because most of them very much are similar, it usually is the common sense choice to just pick Akuma over any of them. But this doesn't mean that the others aren't unviable. If you enjoy playing as Sagat, learn Sagat. Sagat is unique enough as a Shoto that a lot of people wouldn't even consider him to be one. You are going to step away from that archetype. I would say Sagat is one of the best ones to pick if you don't fancy Akuma. Shoto as a style, however, can vary quite a lot. They can be rush down heavy, set play heavy, zoners, and that's all down to how you choose to use their movesets. Last question by Ari Ija is Karen versus the Honda matchup. Honda headbutt is hard / impossible to punish, same thing with his smash. So because they spam this shit, I'm afraid of walking and dashing in, and also jumping because his headbutt works as an anti-air too. The only thing I can find is walk and throw after he headbutts to condition him to press a button and try to counter hit him. Any advice for this matchup? Now Honda fits under the bully character. He's a character that's the one to suffocate you and really push you around on screen. Honda's case, he's got lots of big crush counter buttons and a lot of things with a lot of priority. Bison or Dictator here, you've got a character that really wants to make you feel like it's never your turn to the point where you want to give up. A lot of these characters you are going to have to learn a lot about them, and that is so that you can check their bad behaviour, condition them out of it. If you can out-bully a bully, you'll start to win. Some of the button queens in this game are best at that. Karen, Chun-Li. Effective use of move properties is actually quite an important thing. So using things with low hitboxes and invincibility, as well as being a little bit unpredictable. Some of the best advice I've had against them kind of characters is to up the tempo until one of you goes nuclear. Quite often they don't give these characters the same tools that they give to other characters as well. Honda in particular, if he's on his back, he is literally the turtle. They often lack read for him normals, and again we'll have to really read hard and abuse a lot of priority, which all goes back to checking things with jabs. Highly recommend this breakdown. of Tonyu Yogurt versus Nemo by Ultradavid on Ultrachen TV. I'll drop the link in the description for this one. But he really explains well how a Honda can bully anyone, even a player like Nemo, into just nullifying themselves. And a lot of it really is the Honda overextending themselves, not getting checked for it. And that's it for this week on WTSF. As always, thanks to r/Street Fighter. If you'd like to take part in these polls, you can follow me at Behind the Wires or at the Here FGC, and then you can vote on the next batch of questions. Also follow me on Twitch if you want to watch me figure all of this out for myself. See you next week for another.